I normally have my laptop plugged in always up here, but I taught a workshop last night and I was short of power supplies, and so I unplugged my instructor one and then went way down, and then I forgot to when I turned it on, I realized that I forgot to charge it up last night when I got home. Well, we're still talking about modifiers. Remember the modifiers is under the wrench here, and you click the add modifier. Now we got down and finished up with mask. Um, there's a mirror effect here. Got to shut my phone off. Yes, or but it'll be well, actually, let me go ahead and show that. And I haven't put it out in all the sections yet. Um, we're looking right at 3D computer animation. There it is. And it's worth more points. This one, pick 4 tutorials to finish from this link here. This guy seems to have pretty good tutorials, though he speaks a little bit fast, I think. Right. That's right. Yeah. Even though he speaks a little bit fast, I do in my videos too. So if you go watch my math videos, I don't speak slow because I figure people can pause, like you say, and write it down. But you pick 4 in here, your choice. So you don't have to pick the hardest ones, but pick 4 that look interesting to you. Um, looking at the modifiers might help you understand the modifiers more. So like here's one in subsurf and Boolean modifier tutorial. I'd probably stay away from the Python ones because we haven't covered programming yet. And while you can probably understand most of it, programming is different. Okay, so we add modifier, and you see there's a mirror one. Now, you see when I grab this one vertex here, see how it's applying it to the other side. So that's our mirror effect, and that's across the X here. So I'm pushing on this side of the X, and it's applying it on this side of the X. You can apply it to the Y, apply it to the Z. Now this is oftentimes used in modeling. For example, let's see, I got this one selected. How do I select everything except for that one? Invert. Yeah, maybe. Let me do a X for delete vertices. There's my vertex right there. The idea behind it would be that you would bring in an image and you start tracing around it. And then a mirror effect would appear on the other side. And I know you can't see that. But if you're really interested in it, if you Google Blender 2.8, and then the mirror modifier and tracing a picture would be good. Modifier tracing picture tracing tutorial. Edit mode, tracing picture. Well, I'll give you the idea. I probably won't find one. Um, if you look at this picture right here, is a spoon symmetric? Yeah, normally. So now imagine instead of a spoon, there's a face on here, and I what I do is I create vertices coming down here by extruding and putting them along the edge of the image. And there's an easy way to do that. We're not go into that, but as you draw this side, it will automatically draw this side symmetric if you have the mirror effect on. So that mirror modifier is what allows us to come up with a perfectly symmetric item. And I got away from my documentation. Okay. This tells you which axis to go along. You can select more than one of these. And again, it talks about it being a mirror because that's what it creates. When you work on one side, it mirrors the effect on the other side. See, I wonder. Let me get rid of the modifier. Delete those vertices. Now I'm click on add modifier mirror. See, I'm having a hard time seeing it on that side. So it could be you have to do something. No, it's there. I just can't see. See, if I select that, do an F for face, select that, F for face. See how it's creating an exact mirror effect? When you're tracing, it's best to start with one vertex and then use that to trace alongside of it. There's a shortcut when you have a vertex selected. Um, oh, see if I remember this. Find it, not remember. I obviously can't remember it. Blender, edit mode, dynamic or dynamically extrude. Vertex. There's a shortcut to it such that you do a keystroke and it automatically create the vertex, drawing an edge between it. But I'm not seeing anything. Where was Blender? There it is. But it does work if you just have vertex selected here. You do E for extrude, move it to the new location, click, left mouse click, E for extrude, move to the next position, left mouse click. I wish I could remember the shortcut for that. But that's your mirror effect. And if you're going to create an animation, it should be symmetric. Um, so one thing they tell you is if you have your animation, you have your model, and the model is not symmetrically correct, then your animation will not be smooth. Flip, when bisect is enabled in Axis, you can use the setting switch side kept and mirrored. Mirror object. An object selector to specify an object which position rotation will be used to define mirror planes. So instead of using like your center here, it'll mirror about another object. Put my cube back. Okay, so back to object mode. And see, I wish there was there probably is some way. I wish there was an option on here just to drop a vertex on. If I dropped a plane on, moved it over here, move this over some. And I grab my plane, just rotate it. Trying to think about which axis. RX 45. Up, escape. RX 90. That looks better. Okay, so going to edit mode. Got my add modifier, my mirror, and the mirror object here. I can choose a cube, and so it'll be mirrored not based upon the center of the object or anything, but based upon this cube. Still does the same item like that. Notice when I move the cube, again, it's based upon wherever my cube's at for the mirroring on that. You could do it based upon an empty. So that if you want an empty on there so you can control that, then that'd give it to you. So which brings up a good question. Okay, get rid of that modifier. Let me drop an empty in the middle. Plane axis. Okay, so I got my empty there. I'm going to add a modifier to this. And choose my empty, do a G for grab. Yeah, I got my empty. Okay. It's acting like the, oh, I haven't, wondering. Should be moving it. Okay, so choose empty. There, do a G for grab. Okay, so let me do an I, location, rotation, scale. Record off location of the empty. Go here. Move my empty over. Right there, do another I, location, rotation, scale. In my animation at 62. and press my spacebar. So you can use the mirror modifier to create an animation. So you just need to move the object that it's mirrored upon. Now you can have it work on vertex groups, which we talked about how to create vertex groups. So try to mirror existing vertex groups. So instead of the entire object, you can just have it based upon a specific one, or specific vertices, I should say. Merge with the mirrored vertex. So when I bring these together in my animation, if I wanted them to be merged together when they get within a certain distance, I could use that. Here's a merge limit. Clipping prevents vertices from moving through the mirror plane while the user is transforming in the dead mode. That's probably enough about the mirror modifier. Is there any questions on the mirror modifier? Okay. Now, I won't show this one, but I just want to read it. The multi-resolution modifier gives the ability to subdivide a mesh similar to the subdivision surface modifier, but also allows you to edit the new subdivision levels in sculpt mode. The remesh modifier is a tool for generating new mesh topology. The output follows the surface curvature of the input, but its topology contains only quads. And they give you an idea of some items you can create. This is kind of a fun one. Screw modifier. Screw modifier is similar to the screw tool in the toolbar in that it takes a profile object, a mesh or a curve to create a helix-like shape. Now I'm going to go back to object mode, click this and delete it. And now maybe I just had a cube or cube on there. And we'll see what screw modifier does. Quite different transformation happened to that cube. Now this talks about how far around. So that's 360 degrees all the way around. It's 180 degrees, probably not a whole lot of difference in that one. Got our steps here. As you change the steps, see the transformations happening there. And vertices are changing somewhat when we're doing that. The render steps, number of steps in revolution. Let's flip to. Okay, let me delete that. Then we'll drop on something else. Cylinder. And SX, bring that in. And SY, bring that in. And then if we add the screw tool to it, in this case, it doesn't make much difference. Start changing some of those, and really doesn't affect it. Now, if you have it applied to your x-axis, you see quite a bit of difference. And I'm not sure if I can visualize what in the world's going on in the middle there. Those could just be different faces. Wonder why. So you can see you can get different effects. Now, some of the tutorials where you can design a item like this are interesting. Let's see if I find a tutorial. So you see this spring in the thread there. Starts with a circle. So you can see he created that pretty fast. Now it wouldn't look good if I try. I don't think if I try to do that like on a cube. Well, deleted 0 objects. I guess I got to select it. There we go. See, I'd be surprised if it does much of anything, but see, gives it a texture maybe, but beyond that, doesn't do much with the cube. Um, But starting with just a circle like he indicated, you can come up with a pretty interesting effect. I don't think I've ever used skin modifier. Skin modifier uses vertices and edges to create a skin surface using a per vertex radius to better define the shape. Output is mostly quads, though some triangles appear around intersections. Simple creature made with only skin and subdivision surface modifiers. Hmm. Solidify. Solidify modifier takes the surface of a mesh and adds depth thickness to it. Don't think it'd do anything. Well, let's see. Yeah, it didn't do anything directly there. Probably if I changed any of this, it probably still wouldn't. Yeah. Where you'd see it is if you had something like this picture here. Um, when you apply that and adds depth to it, thickness to it, see how our edges become thicker? Probably if I cut my cube in half, maybe I could see it a little bit better. Let's see. Let me get rid of that. There's empty. I choose my solidifier. See how it's becoming thicker? So if you're trying to create a box, for example, you can start with a cube and just apply thickness to it, and then you can get a box effect. Does that make sense? What that modifier does? We're seeing some cases already where we had cut something out of a cube or a sphere, and it just with the thin edges, it or thin faces, it just didn't look right. So this is how you can get that effect. Let's see. Subdivision surface modifier. Use the split faces of mesh into smaller faces, giving it a smooth appearance. Okay, so back to my cube. Um, I don't have to be in edit mode. Subdivision surface smooths out your rough edges. And as you start playing with these other items here, you can get it to look differently. Now this is when you're rendered, so probably we won't see any difference at all. No, we don't see any difference at all when we change it here because this is not rendered mode. Viewport is what it looks like here. And by applying this, all of a sudden I have my sphere. Also, by clicking it 4 times, I think, I also include my vertices or increase my vertices 6,146. That's why they have two separate pieces here. Is because if you leave it this way and have too much of this, it'll really slow down your viewing. You're working with it. So usually you have your viewport set less, recognizing that your render is going to look good when it renders. Quality. I'm not familiar with this. Let's see. Accuracy of vertex positions. Lower value is faster but less precise. I don't see any differences there unless it applies just in render mode. Now that's a specific type of subdivision. Couldn't tell you any more than it's a type. If we choose simple, then it doesn't look like it does anything. Like our monkey we had. That might be a good mesh view of this. Add mesh Suzanne. She's kind of blocky, sharp edges and so forth. Doesn't look realistic. But if I add the modifier and choose my subdivision surface, then all of a sudden my monkey with the sharp edges looks much better. And see, the renders at 2, so it means it'd even look even better. See, there's 2. Smoothing out a little bit. I'm going to keep an eye on my vertices so I don't crash my machine or something. That's up 31,000. And that'd be pretty good. Again, viewport, you don't want to leave it that way. But render, I'd take up render to 3. And so when I rendered it, it would look better than this. Let's see. That's probably all exciting stuff there. I wonder if you can I don't see any way to apply it just to vertices. Okay, so we get rid of that. Triangulate modifier takes all of your faces and makes them triangular. Remember we talked that there's sometimes where triangular would look better. Or is in the animation part or other. But see how these are quads here? We got 4 vertices, and then what looks like a rectangular shape. And over here, it then splits them into triangles. So it creates new edges to create those triangles. Wireframes on a displaced plane. Wireframe transforms a mesh into a wireframe by iterating over its surface, collecting all edges, and turning those edges into 4-sided polygons. Be aware of the fact that your mesh needs to have faces to be wireframed. You can define the thickness, the material, and several other parameters are generated the wireframe dynamically via the given options. I don't think I've ever done much with wireframe. This has got a face. So let's do add modifier and wireframe. I just want to see what it does. I probably have to watch a tutorial on that. Did you increase some number? Huh. How many vertices does a monkey have? Well, that's 507 to begin with. Boy, its skin modifier must add a lot. Now there's a deform modifiers here, um, and some of these only make sense when we're working with certain items. Like armature modifier, this is where you want to put bones into your body. See if I choose the armature there, and where did they move X-ray to? Hmm. Oh, really? Uh, yeah, I'm gonna find out where the X-ray, where they moved that to. There's actually a bone inside there, though. You see over here in Suzanne, we got our armature here. Um, Sculpting, UV modeling. Weird, there's not like a um, option for the armature up there. But anyway, that's for bones, and we'll be looking at that here shortly. Once you see the bone that's inside, then you can. That's drives me crazy. Think about how to see the X-ray. X-ray. What happened to X-ray? That's why I was just asking. Okay. I found an equivalent called in front. Top right corner of the viewport. X-ray toggle. It's not quite what I was wanting. They don't want wireframe. Yeah. It's still not showing the bone. Yeah, I ought to play with that. See how they change that for this. But typically, when you dropped in a bone, then you could start manipulating the bone. You would right click, or you left click. You could left click the bone and then go in edit mode, and then you could extrude the bone and so forth. There's object mode. Cast modifier. Shifts the shape of a mesh towards any of the few predefined shapes. I never have really understood this. Modifier. Like I got this. And okay, so I'm going to a sphere. Doesn't work very well with the cube because I got so few vertices to work with. That's its attempt to change that to a cylinder. What if I subdivide? Subdivide. Now let me try to go to a sphere. Oh, okay. Like I say, I don't really understand that modifier because if I'm wanting a sphere, what should I add? A sphere. But there's probably a tutorial out there that shows you a perfect if you're trying to achieve a certain effect. I guess if you want to take your monkey's head and make it square. Let's try that. Okay, so I want to square the head. If I had another modifier. Um, if I take it to square, then I want to take it to a cylinder. You can stack these on top of each other, these modifiers. I have to do subdivision subsurface. Anyway, that's what that is. Corrective smooth. I don't think I really ever used this one. It's used to reduce highly distorted areas of mesh by smoothing the deformations. Typically useful after an armature modifier, where distortion around joints may be hard to avoid even with careful weight painting. Curve modifier. If I drop on a curve of some sort, what a circle would do. So I got my circle there. Oops. Choose my monkey and do a curve based upon the Bezier circle I just created. I actually kind of like that. Now, if I grab the circle, increase the size of it, create different effects. And again, remember, pretty much everything you can animate. So location, rotation, scale. Go up to 60, do an S, bring it in. Then another I, location, rotation, scale, ended at 62. Then you can use these to create an animation. Now I can use these tools, but it takes a real creative mind to think, well, how can I use that circle to create an animation of something I could use in a game or a movie or something? And that's the part I lack. Okay. Got our displace modifier. Displaces vertices in a mesh based on intensity of a texture. Either procedural or image textures can be used. It shows 3 different objects created with a displace modifier. I got the sample Blender file here. And okay, so it's based upon texture, and that's why they have a texture on here. We haven't looked at textures yet. Um, so what they started out with was just a cube. And then by applying those mixture of those 3 modifiers, they're able to get it to look like that. It shows that if you combine the 3 together, then you can achieve interesting effects. Crumpled paper. Yeah. And and I don't think the modifiers would go over to Unity. I think you'd have to apply it, but then you'd have this model over there that would be very rough, and it could be the bottom of a cliff or something with these rocks down there or something. Paper. Hook modifier is used to deform a mesh, curve, or lattice using another object, usually an empty or bone, but could be any object. Empty uses a hook to deform a subdivided cube. See, I don't think I ever used a hook, so let's take a look at that. Yeah. Oh, that's like it. There it goes. These create a vertex group. If I can remember which button it is. There. Plus, call this top. Assign. Okay. So now if I go back to object, go to my wrench, and okay, choose my hook. Camera, light. I don't know. I don't see any change. See what the settings are. I've never used this one. Allows you to define influence per vertex. Useful when you want other than a spherical field of reference. Size of the hook's influence. I changed that. It didn't change enough. No change to fully follows the hook. I assume one was 100%, so I left it there. Bone standard is only available in edit mode. Okay, go to edit mode. Ah, assign. Assign selected vertices to this hook. Set the hook center in the 3D cursor position. Recalculate and clear the offset transform of the hook. I don't know. I'll give that one up. I don't think I ever used this one either. This one, Laplacian smooth trim modifier allows you to reduce noise on a meshless surface with minimal changes to its shape. So another way of kind of cleaning up your image. Looks like. Okay. Now that's where I want to stop because I want to give you time during class to work on those projects out there. I'll copy this to all three of the sections here. You'll have 4 Blender files, and you can zip those up. Now, if you've never done a compression, let me show that. If I got multiple files, like I got multiple Blender files, these aren't Blender files, but if I select them, like if I hold click the first one, hold down my control, and then select whichever ones you want included. They don't have to be next to each other. Again, I held my control down when I selected that. If I right click on that and say send to compressed zip folder, it'll take those 4 files and put it into a zip folder. Now, you may already have been doing this with folders themselves, and you can do it that way too. You can have all 4 Blender files in one folder. But if you have other files in that same folder, that's how you select those and zip them up. So let me copy that off. That's the oil one. Okay, those should be out there now. And I'll go ahead and stop the recording. And I'll still be online here. So as you're going through the tutorials, if you're not quite sure what they're talking about, then maybe I can help you find it. Um, I say might because since I've redone 2.8 to redid the entire interface, I'm still struggling myself in finding everything.